was diagnosed 4 years ago with ALS. He took this diagnosis and said, what can I do? Not what can't I do? He has inspired our daughters, our family. He's my hero. My husband being immunocompromised, we haven't left the house much. We're being super cautious. It's been difficult.
Thinking about my uncle, I just think about love, support, family, and someone that I look up to. We used to go down to visit him every couple of months and stay in their house, and they were really the only family we had.
I have a very fond memory of the last time that my nephew, Drew, came to visit me in San Diego. The best part was the hug that he gave me just before he left.
All right, I'm giving you a hug.
This is incredible.
The hug that I just got from Drew was awesome.
This is such an amazing thing. It'll be a lasting memory I have of my uncle, and that is really priceless.
It definitely makes me feel closer to Drew. I love it.
I love you too, Tom.
I found out about a year and a half ago, the cancer I have is uncurable. Prostate cancer.
The moment I learned about my dad's condition, the first thing that came through my head was I need to get out the military. And then pandemic hit.
I have to really be very careful, the people that I'm around, so I distance myself. I think that was the hardest with all my children. They couldn't get to me, and I couldn't get to them.
Every range of emotion you can feel about a person, I felt that about my dad. Even though I wanted to be there, I wanted to see him, the more responsible thing for me to do was to stay away. Definitely believe that technology can bring people closer together. If there was a way for me to squeeze the life out of me into him, I would. You gotta close your eyes.
Oh.
What an experience.
I got my hug.
You did, you got your hug. I got my hug too.
This is the first time I cried, man, since my father died. All we got is each other at the end of the day. It made my days be long. But if not, we got this memory.
You're right. If not, we got this memory.
Tom was diagnosed 4 years ago with ALS. He took this diagnosis and said, what can I do? Not what can't I do? He has inspired our daughters, our family. He's my hero. My husband being immunocompromised, we haven't left the house much. We're being super cautious. It's been difficult.
Thinking about my uncle, I just think about love, support, family, and someone that I look up to. We used to go down to visit him every couple of months and stay in their house, and they were really the only family we had.
I have a very fond memory of the last time that my nephew, Drew, came to visit me in San Diego. The best part was the hug that he gave me just before he left.
All right, I'm giving you a hug.
This is incredible.
The hug that I just got from Drew was awesome.
This is such an amazing thing. It'll be a lasting memory I have of my uncle, and that is really priceless.
It definitely makes me feel closer to Drew. I love it.
I love you too, Tom.
found out about a year and a half ago, the cancer I have is uncurable. Prostate cancer.
The moment I learned about my dad's condition, the first thing that came through my head was I need to get out the military. And then pandemic hit.
I have to really be very careful, the people that I'm around, so I distance myself. I think that was the hardest with all my children. They couldn't get to me, and I couldn't get to them.
Every range of emotion you can feel about a person, I felt that about my dad. Even though I wanted to be there, I wanted to see him, the more responsible thing for me to do was to stay away. Definitely believe that technology can bring people closer together. If there was a way for me to squeeze the life out of me into him, I would. You gotta close your eyes.
Oh,
What an experience.
I got my hug.
You did, you got your hug. I got my hug too.
This is the first time I cried, man, since my father died. So all we got is each other at the end of the day. And may my days be long. But if not, we got this memory.
You're right. If not, we got this memory.
Tom was diagnosed 4 years ago with ALS. He took this diagnosis and said, what can I do? Not what can't I do? He has inspired our daughters, our family. He's my hero. My husband being immunocompromised, we haven't left the house much. We're being super cautious. It's been difficult.
Thinking about my uncle, I just think about love, support, family, and someone that I look up to. We used to go down to visit him every couple of months and stay in their house, and they were really the only family we had.
I have a very fond memory of the last time that my nephew, Drew, came to visit me in San Diego. The best part was the hug that he gave me just before he left.
All right, I'm giving you a hug.
This is incredible.
The hug that I just got from Drew was awesome.
This is such an amazing thing. It'll be a lasting memory I have of my uncle, and that is really priceless.
It definitely makes me feel closer to Drew. I love him.
I love you too, Tom.
Found out about a year and a half ago, the cancer I have is uncurable. Prostate cancer.
The moment I learned about my dad's condition, the first thing that came through my head was I need to get out the military. And then pandemic hit.
I have to really be very careful, the people that I'm around, so I distance myself. I think that was the hardest with all my children. They couldn't get to me, and I couldn't get to them.
Every range of emotion you can feel about a person, I felt that about my dad. Even though I wanted to be there, I wanted to see him, the more responsible thing for me to do was to stay away. Definitely believe that technology can bring people closer together. If there was a way for me to squeeze the life out of me into him, I would. You gotta close your eyes.
Oh,
What an experience.
I got my hug.
You did, you got your hug. I got my hug too.
This is the first time I cried, man, since my father died. All we got is each other at the end of the day. And may my days be long. But if not, we got this memory.
You're right. If not, we got this memory.
Tom was diagnosed 4 years ago with ALS. He took this diagnosis and said, what can I do? Not what can't I do? He has inspired our daughters, our family. He's my hero. My husband being immunocompromised, we haven't left the house much. We're being super cautious. It's been difficult.
Thinking about my uncle, I just think about love, support, family, and someone that I look up to. We used to go down to visit him every couple of months and stay in their house, and they were really the only family we had.
I have a very fond memory of the last time that my nephew, Drew, came to visit me in San Diego. The best part was the hug that he gave me just before he left.
All right, I'm giving you a hug.
This is incredible.
The hug that I just got from Drew was awesome.
This is such an amazing thing. It'll be a lasting memory I have of my uncle, and that is really priceless.
It definitely makes me feel closer to Drew. I love it.
I love you too, Tom.
Ready? What did that do?
Good morning. My name is Bob McKenna. I'm President and CEO of the Virginia Peninsula Chamber of Commerce, and I'd like to welcome you to the latest event in the Chamber's 757 Vision, Eyes on the Future series, Tech Transfer and the Commercialization of Scientific Research. Needless to say, the last year and a half has presented all of us with some unique challenges. As our region begins to open up again, we must focus our collective efforts on recovering and building resilience. Prior to the pandemic, the Hampton Roads region was beginning to see a resurgence in our regional collaborative efforts and some very promising signs of economic growth. Projects like the highway improvements and the HRBT expansion and initiatives like RVA 757 Connects and the Maritime Industrial Base ecosystem were beginning to gain momentum and creating a sense of well-earned optimism. We must now work together as a region to reignite that energy, optimism, and sense of collaboration. The Peninsula Chamber has joined a coalition of business organizations to help do that through the 757 framework, which advances 5 strategic imperatives, including building regional unity, growing new jobs, attracting and retaining new talent, growing resiliency to future threats, and advancing regional infrastructure. For this plan to be successful, we must capitalize on our strengths, obviously, but also recognize our weaknesses and work hard to mitigate them and/or to make them strengths. In keeping with our mission to connect business with opportunity through facilitation, advocacy, communication, and education, we are hosting this monthly series of moderated panels in which we are taking a look at some of our strengths and weaknesses in an effort to inspire, inform, and drive action. One of our greatest strengths is represented here today. Science and technology make our region, and in particular the peninsula, a juggernaut of potential economic growth. Jefferson Lab is a widely recognized hub in the international nuclear physics field, with a significant percentage of the world's nuclear physicists having done research here right in our backyard. NASA Langley Research Center has played a major role in our nation's study and exploration of the final frontiers of space. We should all be justifiably proud of those contributions to our past, present, and future. Tech Center is an initiative designed and built to capitalize on those strengths. Today's very talented panel, moderated by Tim Ryan of Startwheel, will discuss in brainstorming fashion tech transfer and the commercialization of scientific research in the 757. This is only the beginning of a conversation that hopefully will drive future action. Please listen and participate. We would love to hear your thoughts as we move forward. Before we get started today, I'd like to recognize some distinguished viewers in today's audience. From Senator Mark Warner's office, Drew Lumpkin. From Senator Tim Kaine's office, Diane Kaufman. From Congressman Bobby Scott's office, Catherine Goggins. And Mayor Donnie Tuck from the city of Hampton. I would also like to thank today's presenting sponsor, also our series sponsor, Cox Virginia. Cox is a highly valued partner of the Chamber, and their sponsorship for these events make it possible to offer them to you at no cost. Representing Cox today is Sarah Buck. Sarah is the Senior Manager of Public Affairs for Cox Virginia. Her focus is working towards building a better future through business development opportunities, digital equity programs, and corporate social responsibility. Sarah currently serves on the Virginia Peninsula Chamber's Board of Directors and the Hampton Roads Chamber's Communications Committee. She has a bachelor's degree in communication studies from Virginia Tech. In 2016, Sarah was recognized as one of Hampton Roads' top 40 under 40 by Inside Business and is a Girl Scout Council of Colonial Coast future famous former. Ladies and gentlemen, Sarah Buck. Go Hokies.
Thanks, Bob. You didn't let me down. I didn't get the Go Hokies earlier, so thank you for that. And good afternoon, everyone. As always, it's my pleasure to join you virtually for what I know will be another outstanding discussion coordinated by the Virginia Peninsula Chamber. As Bob mentioned, 9 years ago before coming to Cox, I was in grocery retail. So as you can imagine, it was quite a shift from grocery to my current role at Cox, an ever-evolving technology company. Today, I'm learning things like how our fiber network can enable smart communities and how data collection is driving efficiencies, helping the environment, and saving cities millions of dollars just by using technology like smart lighting applications. Of course, looking more broadly, the Cox team is working hard now to prepare our network for the future. As we continue on the recovery path from the pandemic, we're going to see even more innovation and people working hard to find solutions by using technology. So the work has to be done now so we can be ready for when that time comes. I'm looking forward to today's discussion and learning about another side of technology and how it's going to play a key role in our region's growth and resilience. So now I'm going to hand things off to Tim Ryan, but I can't do that before telling you a little more about Tim. Tim has extensive experience in entrepreneurism, early stage startups, angel investing, and small business development. Tim is the president of Art4, a locally based business that works with early stage startups and small businesses. Tim also serves as the executive director of Startwheel, an organization focused on consolidating and coordinating the entrepreneurial efforts across Hampton Roads, Virginia, and as a business analyst for the Hampton Roads Small Business Development Center. Tim was the former director of the Launchpad, an award-winning business incubator located in Greater Williamsburg and a lead associate with Booz Allen Hamilton. Tim has an MBA from William & Mary and his undergraduate degree in computer information systems from St. Leo University. Tim is also a certified project management professional. Tim became a resident of Hampton Roads in 2001 when he was stationed at Langley Air Force Base. Tim and his wife, Terry, have been married for 23 years and have a daughter, Madison, and a son, Drew. Tim is an avid runner and has completed 8 marathons and will be running in the 2021 Boston Marathon in October. Please join me in welcoming Tim.
Awesome. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Bob. Really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you all today, especially as someone who's been so ingrained with the entrepreneurial community. This is just a super cool opportunity to where business can meet tech, especially tech of this caliber. So to kick things off, I'd like to introduce the panel to everybody. So we have from NASA, we have Carrie Rhodes. And from Jefferson Lab, we have Jeff Johnson. And from Jefferson Lab, we have Drew Weisenberger. And from Tech Center, we have Jeff Johnson. So I'd like to welcome you all today. And if we just go around the panel real quick and briefly introduce yourself so the audience knows what you do and who you are.
I guess I'll start with me.
Yeah, Drew. Awesome.
I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Jefferson Lab, also called Thomas Jefferson National Accelerator Facility in Newport News. I'm also the head of a research group at Jefferson Lab in our physics division called the Radiation Detector and Imaging Group. And as CTO, I try to help the lab scientists and engineers try to capture some of their ideas that could possibly be made into a patent, and then go from there to try to transfer that technology outside of the lab.
Awesome, thanks, Drew. Carrie, over to you.
Hello, everybody. My name's Carrie Rhodes. I'm with NASA Langley. I've been at NASA for over 22 years now. I've done everything from flying aircraft to putting things in space. So I'm an aerospace engineer by training, but I've done all kinds of different things. And currently I'm the partnership lead. So I work with our tech transfer and various kinds of partnerships to talk about how we do business. And so again, I'll put it out there. If you guys want to work with us, give me a call. I'm happy to talk about the different modes that you can work with us in and the technologies that we have that are available for you to license.
Awesome. Thanks, Carrie. Jeff, over to you.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's so good to see my good friends Carrie and Drew and Tim and all of you on this call. Thank you again to all of you who put together this amazing series and our friends at Cox who support it. I am Jeff Johnson. I'm the director of the Tech Center. I came here to start this crazy idea and to work with both W.M. Jordan and Virginia Tech to put together this idea around this whole tech center, a place where technology can land and grow. I spent my entire time here since 2014 working on this project, which we'll talk about in many phases and how it connects to the work of technology transfer and technology commercialization, which we'll bring out. So it really is a pleasure to be here to talk about these two subjects, which really matter a lot. So I'll say more later on, Tim. Back to you, my friend.
Awesome, thanks so much. And just some quick housekeeping. If you all have any questions, feel free to input those into the Q&A. We'll have some folks monitoring the Q&A as opposed to the chat. That way we can make sure that we see those. So let's just dive right in. One of the questions, let's just kick it off with, what does tech transfer mean to you and your organization? There's some differences in terms between partnership and tech transfer. So what does tech transfer mean to you? Jeff, I guess we'll do the snake draft. We'll start with you this time.
Okay, good. All right. So, well, probably should start with them, because what's really cool about my role is I get to work with both of them. Both NASA and Jefferson Lab. And what's really interesting is the importance of speaking the same language. For the year that I was the entrepreneur in residence, so fortunate enough to be within Carrie's group, within NASA Langley here, what became real clear, Tim, and what should be real clear to everybody on the call is, first we have to speak the same language. You said partnership, you said technology transfer, I talk about technology commercialization. We need to first level set. And so for me, technology transfer and technology commercialization are not the same. One is an extension and builds on the other, but they actually work together and are necessary to be successful for us to get what we want to get out of this kind of effort. So we'll say more about that, but my view around this is actually going from idea to impact, not idea to license, not idea to market, it's idea to impact. So I'm thinking of the entire continuum.
Awesome. How about you, Carrie? What do you see the differences between the two?
So to me, technology transfer is part of partnerships. Anytime we transfer something to a company, I still think of them as a partner. However, we have many different types of partnerships as NASA. I think there's probably well over 10 different types of partnerships that we have, and tech transfer is just one of many. And sometimes you use tech transfer in addition to some others in order to really make something move forward. So tech transfer is one that takes technology from NASA and moves it into the commercialization world. We have others that bring the commercialization world and work with NASA. And then there's the array of different things in between, where we are moving things forward in a unified way, where we're working together to move technologies to the next generation.
Awesome. How about you, Drew? What's your take?
Jefferson Lab, to try to kind of give an example, explain what Jefferson Lab is and how that is in relation to tech transfer as we see it. Jefferson Lab is what's called a FFRDC, a federally funded research and development center. We're contractor operated but government owned. And we kind of stand between universities and business, because we have university researchers that come to Jefferson Lab to make use of our facility as users. And it's a neat arrangement. Jefferson Lab is a tool for doing basic nuclear physics research. And as such, we churn out a lot of PhDs in nuclear physics. In fact, Jefferson Lab, folks who come to Jefferson Lab to make use of our technology in their research end up getting a PhD in nuclear physics, and JLab produces about a third of the PhDs in nuclear physics in the country. So that's a tech transfer in some ways. They'll go off, some of these PhDs and will go into government, will go into business, or will go back into academia. So they're transferring knowledge that way. And also part of our mission is also to, like I said, capture technology that could be licensed, and we do that in the process of making patents. Also, tech transfer in our organization centers around what we called partnerships. So we have strategic partnership projects, and we also have what's called CRADAs, and we team with outside entities to want to either make use of our facilities that are unique, or make use of some of our expertise. And it's that as long as it doesn't interfere with the basic mission of the lab, which is to do basic nuclear physics research.
Yeah, so you brought up a couple of really interesting points, and I want to go through the start of the whole process, because one thing that's really, really interesting about this dynamic is you have business people that they sit around the table and they're like, gosh, if I could just think of that problem to solve that I can start that business around. And then on the flip side, you all are doing really, really technical things, and you're not necessarily interested in putting a business around it. You're moving on to the next patent, the next challenge. How does the process start in terms of bringing the business people together with the tech people, or the tech people together with the business people? How do we kick that off so that we can at least start the conversation? Carrie, I'll start with you.
So we try to make it as easy as we can, and I say that it's not never. See, everyone starts laughing. It's never really the perfect way of doing it, but we have a website called technology.nasa.gov that you can go to, and you can start looking through all of NASA's portfolio of patented technology. We try to make sure we put them out there as soon as they get patented and as soon as they have the protection rights in place. But the hard part is really translating what gets posted. And that is really on the nuance of the business, of the owner, to figure out. And that, to me, is one of the most challenging things. We try to give a little bit of insight, but there's a lot of different applications that can be generated off of any one technology. And so that is something that seems to be one of the more difficult things to overcome. So we put out these things. They're called top sheets. If you go to technology.nasa.gov, you'll see these things pop up, and they have all the different centers. And then off of each one of those, there is a apply here, where you can start filling in your business information. And that's basically sets up the initial conversation of, let's have a conversation about what the technology is, and let's see if it's applicable to whatever you're trying to do. That's how you start at NASA. Now, whether it's a perfect thing, I will tell you that I've seen it various ways. Some people it works great for, and some people it doesn't. They really need a different conversation first. And again, I'm pretty available to anyone that has those conversations. Like, I don't know for sure. I always say, just give me a call and we'll talk it through and see. And then we can follow up with the real technical people once we say, yes, this is something that you need. But if you really think this is what you need, start on the website and just go through the little atlas. It takes you to a website called Atlas, and you apply.
And so that's like the initial, I guess, due diligence piece, just to get the ball rolling, if you will. Is there a traditional due diligence that will take place? Yeah.
Yeah, off of each one of those top sheets, we try to put the actual patents. So you can actually go to the patent office and pull up the actual US patent and read the patent as in addition to any kind of papers that have been published on that technology. You can pull those up as well. And hopefully that'll give you enough insight to tell you whether you actually want it or not. But it's not always the case, because patents are not written in ways that most people totally understand. I will freely admit, I read some of them and I'm like, I don't even know what this means. So they're difficult sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if I look back at, and if you think about however many years ago, there was a patent, I'm sure, like to send code somewhere into space so that you can 3D print things as opposed to shipping things through spacecraft. I mean, when you read that several years ago, you're thinking, my gosh, this could never even be possible. I mean, how in the world do that doesn't even make sense. How do we put a business around it? And now that's just 3D printing is just something that we do every day. So yeah, understanding the translation process and how you can put a business to that is really, really interesting. Drew, I'm curious in terms of, and maybe Carrie, you can jump on this as well, but you know, how does exclusivity, is that something that comes into play? Is it a first person that grabs, you know, this opportunity and then it's off the table, or do multiple people, are they able to leverage it? How does that work? Drew, start with you.
Well, at Jefferson Lab, if we have a patent that someone's interested in licensing, then there's where you negotiate whether it's going to be an exclusive or non-exclusive. Exclusive, obviously, it means that that company would have full use of that, and excluding anybody else getting access to it. However, you can actually narrow it to field of use also. So if there's a specific field of use that you're going to use the patent for, maybe that company only cares to leverage the idea for one type of technology, but that IP could also have value in another totally different field. And so then it's likely you can negotiate a exclusive field of use patent with Jefferson Lab. Again, these are all Department of Energy. These are government-owned patents, similar to what NASA has. So it's there are other ways in which you can partner with the lab to get access to patents, in the sense that we have this arrangement called a cooperative research and development agreement, which could focus on a particular patent that the lab has, and it would be of interest to both Jefferson Lab and this other entity to work together to make that idea more commercial. And sometimes the funds would come into the lab from the company to invest in that idea. Sometimes a company will use funds that it got from an SBIR grant to do that. And often Jefferson Lab is also interested in the technology going further, so they might invest effort in it in the sense of bringing like technologists, engineers to help the company get that technology into a shape that can become commercial.
So Tim, I had an add-on to that, if I can.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So this is cool. It was a great question, and I love Carrie's and Drew's perspective. And so here's what I'll offer. In the work that we're doing, we're augmenting what they're saying with a market back approach. Okay. So the difference is we're taking, you know, a technology and an invention in the way you've talked about it today and heard about it, and we're saying, hey, we got some really cool stuff. Come check it out, right? Having run large businesses and these kinds of things myself, it's very difficult for us to do. But what we do have is problems. Okay, so if you start with problems, Tim, on the very left side of what we're talking about, then it becomes a situation where we're matching problems to technical solutions. Then the value proposition actually starts to rear its head. We will license it from Carrie, we'll license it from Drew, but you have to start at the very left part of this with the problems and take a market back approach. The rest becomes fairly straightforward, but when you're trying to say, hey, I got this to hammer, you know, are you a nail, right? But that's not just a NASA or DOE. The federal government, and I'm glad, I think you mentioned, maybe you or Bob mentioned that that Drew was on here from Senator Warner's office and our other senators as well. The government invests $150 billion a year in federally funded in research, right? And so the idea now is we're trying to accelerate lab to market. You'll see that. Part of this acceleration that both Carrie and Drew are working on, and we're trying to help accelerate, is around starting with problems, identifying the technologies, and then marrying them with the entrepreneurs that can move it to commercialization. So I love your question, but that's the perspective, and it's not trivial. So, I mean, the work that they're doing, this is non-trivial, but that's the perspective, Tim. That's the approach we're taking now that's going to help us be much more successful going forward.
100% agree. And I know with all the businesses that I work with and mentor, if you're not solving a problem, then you don't have a business. I mean, that's just how it is. With that said, Jeff, is that, so if someone has an idea, somebody, they think, they go to the website, they think that they have something, is that where you come into play? Is that where Tech Center comes into play to help work that out, to define that product market fit, define that business case?
Yeah, well, we help there, but what we're trying to do is that you see us move further. So everybody from left to right, if you think in your left, in your mind's eye, very left at the very front end of the funnel, if we work with them in the technology and markets around customer discovery, that's a term many of you on the call will know about, where we're actually trying to make sure we have product market fit, problem solution fit. Tim, that's the part we're working on very early so we can ensure more success as it moves forward. So we're working not only with NASA, but also DOE and other agencies to do that, as well as universities, right? So my university and all of our universities, we're trying to accelerate that lab to market. In order to do that, our work has got to be at the front end around that whole problem solution and product market fit piece, Tim. And that's where we're working early on, because the rest we can handle.
Gotcha.
Makes sense?
Yep, totally makes sense to me. We have one question in the Q&A from an anonymous attendee who would like to know what safeguards are in place to protect the technology transfers. Carrie, do you want to take a stab at that?
Sure. I mean, once we patent it, it does have patent protection. And that's what we always have our patents in place before we even make it public. So it's one of the things that we always do, even if it's a provisional patent, we make sure that that is in place so that it gives you that protection. So at that point in time, both NASA and the company that licenses it has the rights to the patent and can go and fight any company that takes over. And that is part of what you define in your negotiations with NASA and probably most other government labs of making sure who is responsible for fighting off anyone that takes over or tries to use your patent. So that is something that you want to watch. I will say the whole, and I think Drew is on board with this, that most of the things that are in the license agreement are negotiated. So you want to pay attention and make sure you have your lawyers pay attention. We do have simplified ones that are a little more straightforward, but you know, there are nuances, and it really depends on all of your negotiating, whether you do exclusive, non-exclusive, and all of the different variations. Can play into what kind of patent protection you really have. And you need to be careful on whether, if it's non-exclusive, then anyone can use that same technology. And that's what Drew was talking about, fields of use. Those are very important, that you define your field of use, that you are using it for this in your negotiations. But typically, and I'm pretty sure JLab is probably the same, that typically if you're going to get exclusive, they're going to cost you a little bit more. But it's the same thing as a material to me. So if you need aluminum to make aluminum plates, that aluminum is going to cost you X amount of dollars. A patent on a technology is kind of the same thing. So you have to think of it as an asset that you are going to spend money on in order to get access to. And that's something that a lot of people we have. I will tell you that there is license agreements that we have right now for startups that are free, that sound great, and they are to a certain extent. But those free are non-exclusive. And a lot of times startup companies can't get any kind of venture capitalist investment if they don't own any of the patent rights. Now, if they have other patents that they have in place, they might not need the exclusivity of our particular technology. So it really depends on the individual company on whether they need any kind of exclusivity and what that gets them in the bigger business model. And that's where I think people like Jeff Johnson can help them define what they need and what they need access to, so that we make sure that these companies are successful.
So think about that, what Carrie said, Tim. So this is kind of cool. Think about the company stage of development. If this is an early stage startup, right? So a non-exclusive license with Carrie gives them the opportunity to work and further develop these using agile development techniques and others, so that they can understand if there's a there. It also gives us an opportunity to identify customers, do customer discovery. So for early stage kind of companies who are not really sure, where we're trying to make sure we got good problem solution and product market fit, that license is perfect. When I'm talking about later stage companies where the exclusivity, now we've got to get those companies investment ready, that idea around exclusivity becomes extremely important. So yes, absolutely. That's kind of how we would actually navigate that. Well, not only NASA, but also with DOE.
I mean,
And
so that's, oh, go ahead, Carrie.
And one of the things that I want to point out with that is we can go back if you have negotiated a startup license, we can later come back and modify your agreement or put a new agreement in place that actually gets you that commercial license that has some kind of exclusivity. Typically, we do not give free reign exclusivity to a whole technology. But this is something that not many people know. All government agencies post it to the Federal Register. And the Federal Register, we post up whenever an agreement goes in, and it's something I try to educate people on. It is something that we post to make sure people are aware. So if you're not currently monitoring the Federal Register for any kind of technologies, if you are looking to pick them up from the government, you should be. So just throwing that out.
Interesting. So with all that said, I'm curious about your take. I mean, is there an ideal stage of the business that somebody should be in, or a sweet spot, if you will, to look at tech transfer opportunities? I mean, is it the idea stage? Should they be in an MVP type stage? Is there a sweet spot there?
It all depends on, again, where the company is, what they wanted to start from. Like, we've had entrepreneurs just looking for a technology to just start a company around. We had a group, a pair of entrepreneurs that had just sold a business they had just created, and they're looking for something new to work on. So these, they came to Jefferson Lab and looked around at what we had, and eventually struck on an idea that they wanted to take to business, and then looked into seeing if they could partner with Jefferson Lab to help transfer the technology. It's something you should keep in mind. It goes back and forth with the idea of what sort of protection you have in terms of the patent. Often, like Carrie pointed out, the patent as published describes the technology, but you may need more than just the description to get it to the point where you can understand how to apply it. So that's where partnering with the lab, we can get you in touch with the actual inventor. We can possibly have the inventor involved in some of the development of it. So that's an important aspect of how government labs and how Jefferson Lab likes to. Our job is not to make money on these patents. Jefferson Lab is not out to make money on these patents. Jefferson Lab wants to benefit the local and national economy by injecting new ideas, new technology into that environment. So we make it as easy as we can to license. Typically, you talk about costs. Sometimes it's not so much in dollars, it's more in performance. If this company is going to have access to the IP, they have to meet some performance criteria in order to keep that particular license. And so there might be like milestones that we'll negotiate with the company that they would need to try to meet after 2-3 years and go from there. But it's interesting because labs like Jefferson Lab and like what's at NASA, we're not in it to make money from the technology. So it's not like you're licensing technology from a company that also uses that as an income generator. It's more, we really want to partner.
Awesome. Jeff, I saw that you're teed up ready to answer the next Q&A question that's listed, but before we get to that point, I'm curious to know, with us living in the 757 or within Hampton Roads, does that give those people an advantage if they wanted to apply to obtain the tech or a tech transfer, or is this just you both had, Carrie and Drew, you both had mentioned that you can work with the inventors, you can work with the people that have helped create this technology. Is there an advantage to people in the 757 if they want to try to obtain a partnership or the tech transfer? Carrie?
To me, absolutely, because they're local, so they can come out to the lab. Now, I will say with COVID going on, we're still not totally back on the lab. So there's a little bit of challenge there at the very particular moment. But in general, being able to come out to the facility, see the materials, see how people are using it, it's very helpful for understanding the applications and what these things can be used for. So, you know, once we get back on center in our non-COVID environment, we are welcome people to come out. We actually usually have a sit down with folks and introduce them to the inventors where they can have an open discussion about things. Now, one of the challenges I will say, and I don't know if Jefferson Lab and Langley are on the same exact path, but unless it's in line with NASA's mission, where we might be able to do something where we partner together without any money changing hands, the challenge is if it's a technology that you're using outside of a NASA mission, a lot of times we have to do a reimbursable Space Act, and that's where the company actually has to pay to have the additional inventor time. There is a certain amount of hours that are allotted for the inventors to work with a company, but above and beyond that is where you actually end up having to pay. And that's one of the things that isn't great at the moment. We are trying to put different things into place to try to alleviate some of that. But currently I don't have an answer, and it is one of the bigger challenges that NASA has for some of our technologies. So just putting that out there as well for those that are looking at technologies at NASA.
Awesome. How about you, Drew?
Well, an example of how to have in the Jefferson Lab, a bunch of entrepreneurs were interested in some detector technology that had applications in the medical field. In Jefferson Lab, our mission is not medicine. Our mission is basic nuclear physics research. However, it is acceptable for us to try to help that company. You know, it's in our interest to find applications for some of our technology. And if Jefferson Lab scientists and engineers can learn better if their particular technology can have an application, then there is arguments to be made that yes, JLab should put some, we could justify putting some action of our own into that endeavor. But at the same time, a company typically would bring funds in addition. So we have what we call CRADAs, which can be Cooperative Research and Development Agreement. It's a specific vehicle for collaboration that will allow us to team in a way that either funds would come into Jefferson Lab to help with it, or funds would not, or there would be no, there would be a mixture. Some funds would come in and some Jefferson Lab activities would be contributing to that action. So we had we had a number of CRADAs with this company. Some of them were only funds in, some were sort of a shared activity, because there was interest in seeing how we could apply some of this basic technology to something just beyond basic nuclear physics research.
I mean, that's just, it's super cool to hear. I mean, especially we're sitting on such an amazing opportunity. And if you look back at how Silicon Valley was first formed, I mean, back in the 40s and 50s, I mean, they were orchards, and it took technology like these opportunities to really start to blossom into what it is today. And so, boy, we're sitting on such an opportunity that I would love to see us really take this to the next level, and to have this dialogue started is really, really great, which leads into the next question. I would love everyone's take. Jeff, we'll start with you in terms of what is it going to take to transform Hampton Roads into the next Silicon Valley or Research Triangle type of environment? What's your take, Jeff?
Yeah, well, there's a couple things. First and foremost, I'm going to loop back on something both Drew and Carrie said. And one of the critical pieces to this whole tech transfer and tech technology commercialization continuum is what I call the handoff. Okay, so if anybody in tech transfer is just hard, period, Tim. It's hard whether even inside of a company, anybody knows that, Tim, if you worked on a technology and now you're in research. So first thing is we use a run-on sentence that we say it's R&D. Okay, there is R, research, and there is D. And then there is C, actually. So you're now passing the baton to me. What you heard Carrie talk about, and she said it pretty quickly, and I'm gonna really reiterate that, is how important principal investigator support is to the transfer of technology as it moves down the continuum. Because there are things the inventor knows that I don't know. When I'm talking to customers, they said, hey, can it work at 33 megahertz? I don't know. The patent says it only works at X megahertz. And the inventor would say, oh my God, I only put that in there because that's what we needed for the NASA mission, in which case it would solve a customer's problem. So access to those inventor support is really important in this continuum from technology transfer through technology commercialization. So that's one. For us to get to where we want to get to in Hampton Roads, this is kind of cool. So there's like 40, 50 something people on this throughout Hampton Roads and beyond. And what's great is there's a lot of activity in Hampton Roads, which is great. What we're doing here at Tech Center, sitting right between Jefferson Lab, or actually adjacent to Jefferson Lab and NASA, is really around science and technology. And what's great about the 757 Vision Series is it really lifting up our ability, Tim, to use that as a basis upon which to build on. So when you got these two mega giants here in research, as well as the work we're trying to do to help them commercialize those, linking with the work that we're doing on the South Side and that's being done on the South Side together, then Hampton Roads starts to look like those other entities you're talking about. Here's the beauty of it. We are part of the advisory team for those other entities. As a member of the AURP and a board member, which I am, and lead the strategy team, we're working with those kind of other entities, Tim, around innovation centers and innovation districts and research parks to be able to create those. So we're actually learning from them as well as we're helping them grow. Now, remember, one of them you mentioned is looking more like us versus more like independent businesses in a huge geographical area. We're tight. So we have a great opportunity with the help of everybody on this call to grow us into what we can be based on the science and technology. And this discussion is at the very forefront of it.
Totally agree in the sense everything starts with a conversation, and this is an awesome platform to start that conversation. Carrie or Drew, do you want to add to any thoughts to what is it going to take to propel us to put us on a larger map, so to speak?
I'll go ahead. Thanks, Drew. I see the little head. So I see a lot of things that are opportunities here, and a lot of things we can learn from Silicon Valley and I mean, Austin, Texas, and the Research Triangle as well. I think Peter Shaw had a question there that said, how can we create that Research Triangle environment? So to me, one of the big things is getting companies to start up here and then stay here. Seems to be one of the bigger challenges because there's a big draw to go to those other areas. But I grew up in Ohio. I moved to California for 11 years, and now I've been out here for 11 years. And I have to say, we have a lot of advantages over other areas, being that we do have a lot of technical schools. Right here in the area, we have a great cost of living, which is way below most of the other areas that we're talking about. And we have a collision of such different technologies that it should lend itself to really blooming for technology to really pick up around here. I mean, we've got Jefferson Lab, we've got Langley, we have a bunch of like wind farm energy coming in. We have all the military bases, so you have instant access to a lot of the needs of the military across the region. There is just a lot of things that could contribute to really making this a technical hub of the East Coast. And so I'm really looking forward to all of these conversations starting around these incubators. And our incubators and accelerators are getting stronger and stronger is what I've been seeing over the last 5 years. So I'm really looking forward to the next 5 years and seeing where we actually go, because I think we've got a lot of strengths in this area. And I think we're on an upward trajectory to really pull this off and really make this the hub of the East Coast.
Drew, anything you want to add?
I have to, a big key part is coming from Jeff Johnson. This organization that's been put together here in Newport News at one of the busiest intersections of Newport News. Where they first, the model is put a retail that's attractive, put some nice living space that's also attractive, and then build out these buildings that they've been doing. Like building 1 is done, I believe, and building fully subscribed, so there's definitely a need there. And building 2, you've got planning. I'm sure that's nearly fully subscribed. And it's beyond and beyond. I mean, the Tech Center has big plans to leverage the resources in the peninsula, from NASA, Jefferson Lab. Then you have the universities. You have the Hampton Proton Therapy Center. You have Cannon just around you. So it's getting there. It's and we're counting on Jeff.
Yeah, right. I'm counting on Tim. I mean, think about what you just heard, Tim. Even in our first one, we have medical device company, cybersecurity, environmental security, right? Of course, government contracting, and you've got co-working, and you got education with the universities that are there. We got Virginia Tech and our friends there at Outreach and International Affairs. I think Mallory's with us and others. And you're marrying this with the work that's going on in Hampton and the work that's going on in Norfolk and Virginia Beach. Collectively, we are putting together, and with your efforts around telling everybody and bringing us all together and coalescing us all with the help of Cox and the Virginia Peninsula Chamber, we are on a great trajectory, everybody. Bet on us. That's my message. Bet on us. Look, Silicon Valley and Research Triangle Park and Austin, they didn't start out being where they are right now, everybody. We're at the beginning. This is where you want to invest. The key is this is where you want to invest. This is when you want to, it's messy, but we're not afraid. So Tim, we're excited about this.
100%. And everybody here, everyone that I talk to and certainly surround myself with, it's all about the give before you get mentality. Everyone is there to help rise each other up, help each other succeed. And this is a perfect example of that. Yeah, I agree. The trajectory that we're on is really, really exciting. And this is one first step of many, many more to come. Another question that I have, and Drew, you had mentioned this, and Jeff as well, about having access to the person who developed the patent. What type of flexibility is in place in order to leverage that person? Do you there's a certain number of hours? How much is that tracked? What if the business owner is like, hey, what if we slide you over some equity to continue to work with us? What type of flexibility or work arrangements are involved with the reach back to whoever developed that patent to begin with?
Again, it all depends on the circumstance, and it's Jefferson Lab's a small lab. We have only like 700 people, and everybody knows everybody, and it's pretty easy to get access and get discussions, and people want to help make it get approved. Now, again, if, for instance, if a small business got a SBIR grant and needed access to certain technology to leverage that IP at the lab, perhaps that money could go into a term position that would be working at Jefferson Lab, or and to add to that effort. But Usually it's encouraged to try to help where we can. Leadership at the lab is very committed to this. Jefferson Lab's director is very committed to doing what they can for the region. And so there's the leadership, you know, if your upper managers are committed, they will help talk the middle managers into letting some of their scientists and engineers put some of their time towards this effort. But again, it's a case-by-case basis. But believe me, the lab leadership wants to make it happen.
And with that, Drew, I'm curious, what industries does Jefferson Lab need surrounding you all in order to further your mission, to help you advance further?
So could you repeat before? I didn't get the first part of your question.
What industries does Jefferson Lab need to do its mission? Yes,
that's a very good question. Jefferson Lab is a leader in a type of technology called superconducting radio frequency, SRF technology. This is a technology we use to accelerate high energy particles near the speed of light to do our physics, do our studies. A lot of the technology is designed and came out of the heads of people at Jefferson Lab and also other DOE labs. Unfortunately, most of the manufacturing of these cavities, this technology is actually out of the country. So there's a big interest in bringing industries like that have access to, who are familiar with developing high vacuum type materials, being able to do laser welding, to be able to do electron welding, to be able to do work at cryogenic temperatures, liquid nitrogen, liquid helium. So it's we also make use of large magnets. So industries that have ability to wind large magnets, to make use of superconducting materials in magnets, which is what similar goes into the magnets in medical facilities, like for the nuclear magnetic resonance imaging. So actually a lot of the technology that is sort of could be leveraged by also the shipyard could also add the capability of dealing with the materials that we need to make the accelerating components. So that would be that's a big need for not only DOE, not only the lab, but all other DOE labs.
Jeff, wouldn't it be really cool if some of these experts in the field where we're trying to train people were able to offer night classes or something like that at a cool facility like Tech Center? Is that something that is a possibility?
Absolutely. So what's really cool about this is I love listening to both Drew and Carrie. And here's the thing for everybody on here. So they're different. And there was something that Carrie said, maybe Carrie real quick. No, it was Drew. He used the term GOCO. Government owned, right? It's sort of company operated. Okay. So it was kind of a contractor operated. So it's kind of one of those, right? To most of us on this call. Here's the cool thing, Tim. Carrie over there, quiet, kind of going like this, going, well, we're civil servants. Okay, so one of the things that happens working with both of these is I work with them differently, right? Some of the things, and both of them will nod, because some of the things Drew can do, Carrie can't do, right? and so, Tim, to your question about working with the principal investigators, I'm going to use your term, Carrie, the principal investigators or researchers, Tim, we are working with both of them, trying to do more of this kind of work around innovation and entrepreneurship. We're not trying to make them entrepreneurs, et cetera, but we are trying to build some of that culture in, non-trivial. Classes like you talking about, efforts like you're talking about, allow us to create the thing that will make all the success for everybody, collisions. It's the great power of proximity. When I'm standing next to Drew and I'm talking to Drew about my problem or challenge, he's gonna say, hey, I know Carrie over at Langley and she might be able to help you with that. Boom. That's the secret sauce, everybody. So Tim, if we can do those kinds of things, which we are doing now, both internally, sometimes at NASA and at Jefferson Lab, internally, and actually to bring those even further, that's the effort. You're 100% correct, Tim. That's one of the things we're going to do to make us all successful. I don't know, Drew or Carrie, if you know, your thoughts on that. I see you both nodding because, you know, it's kind of thing we talk about.
Yep. It's all about, we don't have all the answers for everybody, right? So, you know, we've got to work together and make sure people have access to the right things that they need. And that's something I've seen with many different businesses. Sometimes they have really high technical skills, but they're missing the business side of the house. And other times they have the business side of the house and they're missing the technical. And so making sure that they blend it together so that they can make a successful business is really the real driver behind a lot of things.
Yeah, so as we get ready to wrap, I would love to go around the horn one more time. I'm sure that there's something that I missed, or there's something that that you all want to make sure that you share before we close. Carrie, I'll start with you. Do you have anything that you'd like to end with?
I put three websites in the chat. So one is technology.nasa.gov. That is where all of our patented technology can be found. Another one is the software.nasa.gov. That actually has access to a lot of different softwares, and some of them are really fairly simple software. Like there's timesheets in there. But again, if you're a startup and you can't afford to buy whatever kind of software you need, you might check it out. But there's also some really highly technical, like CFD, computational fluid dynamics code, that you can also get on that website. So, you know, you want to look at it, take a look. And again, if you're starting a company, you might be able to get some startup stuff from the software site. There's different restrictions on the software. It all depends on what it is. So pay attention to that as well. And then the other thing is to look at spinoffs.nasa.gov. If you're interested in starting a company from NASA technology, you might go check out some of the other companies that have already been started up. Every year they put these things out there. So you can go take a look, and it's really amazing the things that NASA's technology really goes into now. And you can find all that on spinoffs.nasa.gov. So those are the three big points. But again, if you want to call me, I put my contact information in there. Feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to chat about things that could be. Now, I have to put a disclaimer on that. It's not a NASA endorsement. It is just a hypothetical. You could do something. Okay, right. So, and I'll make sure to say that when I talk to you as well. But, you know, it's one of those, I like to talk about the possibilities of things that we have.
Awesome. Thank you, Carrie. How about you, Drew? Any closing remarks?
Yes. First off, one thing to make a point that maybe isn't clear. Jefferson Lab and NASA collaborate. We actually work with each other on different problems. So NASA folks have come to JLab for some help, and we've gone to NASA. So that's, you know, that's that kind of relationship. And again, if I see something that could be done at NASA, I'll let someone know, and they'll go over there. So that's the nice thing about being proximity. And I'll also give information. I put in the chat also, if folks are interested in DOE type of technology, there's a DOE has actually just started in the last couple of years, put up this thing called Lab Partnering Service, where all the DOE labs are highlighted and listed their patents and listed their expertise. And you can go there and look for answers for something you may be looking for your particular technology or your particular business. And if it is a DOE, you can always come to Jefferson Lab, and we'll help you connect with that right DOE lab, that right DOE person. And also there's Jefferson Lab, we have our tech transfer page, and it has examples of how we have partnered, and also how you can partner. So it's just jlab.org/tech transfer. It's easy to do.
Awesome. Thanks, Drew. How about you, Jeff?
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to make sure that people understood is part of this whole Virginia Tech Corporate Research Center Enterprise Network, where we're actually in Blacksburg. You see our efforts here in Newport News, but you also will hear about our efforts in the Washington, D.C. area. The part is to create that whole innovation campus with the whole HQ2. The part is to create this enterprise. And what we're really, one of the focuses, especially here, is around going after at the highest level that whole wealth gap. We think technology and the technologies coming out of places like NASA and Jefferson Lab can help us identify, right, and commercialize technology that can help us go after that. What do I mean? This whole inclusive economic growth. So you'll stand by, you'll hear more about that, where we're actually focused on science and technology acceleration and commercialization as part of our mission. We've been talking about buildings. So we've been buildings and they're full, and you heard about what Drew's talking about. We got a new one coming up in the fall. But out of those buildings come this focus around science and technology acceleration and commercialization, where we're working to help Carrie, to help Drew, and to help others accelerate those technologies, Tim. So that in an inclusive way. So stay tuned on that, because you'll hear more about that pretty doggone soon in our efforts to do that. So we're excited. I'm easy to reach. Everybody knows, kind of just Google Tech Center, just come out to Tech Center. We'd be more than happy to have you and share more about what that vision is. So thanks again for giving us this opportunity to be a part of this, both Bob and Tim. You guys are.
Well, thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Drew. Thank you, Carrie. One shameless plug on my end here. As you can tell for the last hour, there's a lot of things that are going on. One of the missions of Startwheel is to consolidate, coordinate, and celebrate entrepreneurship across Hampton Roads. So if you're looking for one place to see where everything is going on, sign up for our newsletter, startwheel.org. We send it twice a month, and we consolidate all the different things that are taking place. So if you have an idea, you want to look at the text transfer, but you want to make sure you want to sharpen up your business skills a little bit more before you pull the trigger on that, we'll list the different things that Jeff is doing at Tech Center. So it's just a one-stop shop. You can figure out everything that's going on across the community. So shameless plug there. Bob, thank you so much for the opportunity. We're wrapping up our time here, so I'll toss it back over to you.
Hey, Tim, shameless plugs are permitted by great moderators.
Great job.
And actually when it contributes to our end goal. So at the beginning, I talked about the reasons we established this series, the 757 Vision Series, and we talked about reigniting energy, enthusiasm, and optimism in the 757. And the ulterior motive for me was to surround myself with very smart people who can make me smarter. And this installment of the series definitely accomplished that objective. So thanks very much to the three great panelists. I love to hear your ideas. I love to hear your thoughts, and thanks for sharing your expertise with us. It reignited my energy, enthusiasm, and optimism. So thanks very much. Carrie, I love the fact that you're a cheerleader for Hampton Roads too. So I'm right on board with that. I moved here after moving 16 times in 27-year Navy career. I came back here because I instinctively saw that it was going to be even greater than it is right now. So thanks again. Great conversation. I'm sure many of our viewers out there feel very passionate about this topic, and that's why you joined us today. I'm sure also that you're fired up and ready to take some action to ensure the successful future of our community and our region and our economy. The Peninsula Chamber, in partnership with various partners, would like to help facilitate action moving forward. So stay tuned for more on that. And Tim, I look forward very much to working with you as we emerge from this 17-month tunnel that we've been in. Please, to all our viewers, send us your thoughts. You have Elisa Campana's email, and you have my email too. I'd love to hear from all of you. So in closing, once again, I'd like to thank Cox, Virginia for making this event possible. And thanks to you all for joining us for this event. Upcoming events include one on the future of Newport News Williamsburg Airport and a revisit to an earlier topic, offshore wind industry, in the offshore wind power industry in the 757. I hope you'll all join us for the following events, and stay tuned on our website for more information. That's it. Thanks very much. Have a great rest of the week. See you soon.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.